So, the game I'm going to attempt, plot to assassinate Hitler. This is an old SPI game from their Power Politics series, which means it's not really a war game at all, even if it shares some similarities like hexes, counters, lots and lots of little charts. And standard SPI rulebook. I've seen this played once in my life, and played solitaire by a friend of mine who has similar tastes and said it was good. And I've wanted it even before that, although kind of had a, I don't know, these things are always kind of iffy, the SPI Power Politics. There are some real winners out there like Russian Civil War that I played earlier. But then there's things like the Canadian Civil War that it's a very interesting game, there's no question. But I'm not sure how much it appeals to most people. And this I'm also still not sure, even though I've read the rules and kind of looked it over and tried to figure out what I'm going to do. These tend to be very, very odd games. And like Russian Civil War, this one comes with a big cup full of, well, it doesn't come with a cup, but a bunch of randomizer chits of various kinds, and those are held here in these boxes. Some of them relate directly to the characters in the game, in which case they're kind of loyalty chits, which means you can do things to the person with them, like recruit them or something. Some of them are sort of hold events like the ability to travel or to change the assignment requirements given in a certain by random tables. And is there anything else? I can't think of anything. I mean, there's a lot of different there's 5 or 6 different kinds of event chits that are available, including the rather cryptic double plus one, which stands for double cross, but most of them have the words on them, which makes them a little easier to handle. I think they were a little silly with that. Got a lot of different factions in this game set up. Now the main ones are the Abwehr, which was sort of the intelligence agency run by this fella here, Canaris, who was kind of playing as a double agent through the entire war, sometimes trading information to the Allies, sometimes directly attacking them. He seemed to have a fixation on attacking the United States and had a very, very powerful network there that, for example, in the aircraft industry, getting plans for all the planes as they were being made. However, it's pretty clear, even from the beginning, that he was playing a double game. But as the war went on, he was more and more disillusioned with Hitler and with the Nazis in general, supporting Jews, for example, but also very, very unhappy with the war with Russia. And that was a feeling that was shared with a lot of the high command in the OKW, which is another one of the factions here, mostly aligned towards the plot. We're going to call the Abwehr the plot. At the beginning of the game, the Abwehr counters are controlled by the plot player, and the SS, another one of the factions, is controlled by, say, the Nazi player. The Nazis themselves are somewhat aligned with the SS, although not entirely so, as the OKW is aligned with the Abwehr, and the civilians are kind of less important to begin with one exception, Gordele, who is definitely involved in the plot up to his eyeballs from the beginning, and is essentially treated as an Abwehr unit, except that he has the defenses, etc., of a civilian instead. Alright, what about the map? Well, the main area, the white area, is Berlin, and everything else, and with certain headquarters placed in it. And it's still an abstraction. I mean, this isn't a map of the city, right? This is a map of the power structure in Berlin. And that extends outward into the power structure in Nazi Germany and its conquests as a whole. In each area, you have a code. Hitler shares time between his bunker in Berlin and Rastenburg. These are the most likely places to be able to assassinate him. So those are the only places that he shows up here. His Bavarian stronghold isn't included in the game because it's assumed to be that was controlled well far too much. There's a code in there which reflects to the assignment table to let you know where to put things. There is also a number in some of them which indicates the turn of the game in which the territory is conquered by the Allies. So you'll see the Russian advance moving forward, as well as the Western Allies also moving in their direction. Those areas become out of play as they're conquered, even though there are Allied units. These are Allied kind of covert units, which have an influence on everyone and are kind of a dampening effect. All right, so the goal of the game for each side is to destroy, well, first of all, the Abwehr has to throw a coup at some point. And then they also have to destroy all the SS units that aren't inside a headquarters. An equal version, or equivalent version, is during a coup if all the Abwehr that are outside of the headquarters, this is in Berlin only, it doesn't matter if you're outside Berlin, are destroyed, then the SS player wins. And there's a lot of stuff that can kind of go into that, but basically, like a game of Junta, you're building up, well, there's only one, to a coup situation. And in that coup situation, you might be able to off Hitler if you're the Abwehr, and you're unlikely to win if you don't off him. All right, let's look at what the structure of the sequence of play is, because this is a hard game. I don't have a full grasp on it, even though I think I know most of the rules. Although I know I'm missing a few still. So the first situation is this assignment interface. What happens here is you roll a pair of dice and cross-reference and get two results. One is where an allied is a region where an allied unit at random will be placed and have some influence and dampening on the actions of all the German units there, both Abwehr and otherwise. There's no real contact between these two, and it makes it hard for units to leave the area. They're pursuing those covert units is basically the problem. And then the second value there indicates an assignment, and that assignment's broken up into a number of units, what faction, either SS or Abwehr, nothing else is ever sent on assignment, and what region they're sent to. Now here's where some of the chits come into play. The friendly assign, and there's also enemy assign. Friendly assign chits say, so what normally happens here is that the player who isn't being sent off gets to choose which units are sent. A friendly assignment says, you know, I want to choose instead my own people. I don't want to send my valuable people out, or I want to send people I want protected, or whatever. So a friendly assignment chit can allow you to control which of your pieces get kind of banished to the hinterlands. An enemy assignment chit says, no, I'm not going. I'm going to send the other group there. Abwehr versus SS, which one is sent on this particular mission? Okay. What about the randomizer? I'm not sure when. Yes. Okay. Then you roll on the randomizer table, which for each game turn gives a certain number of these chits out of this pool to a given player. Early in the game, it's possible for the SS to get chits this way, and a lot of chits are at stake. So if these are important, there's a huge random element here at the early stage of the game. As you go further and further on, the number becomes tighter and smaller, and more likely to just be an Abwehr collection of chits. which seems like, oh, geez, the SS are going to have trouble later. Maybe, maybe not, because they can get chits out of the Abwehr, and I'm not sure how easy that is, but they can investigate and interrogate people who are under suspicion. Okay, then each player gets their turn, and they're mainly the same. The first thing is movement and harassment. You're allowed to move each of your units one at a time, and you kind of have to tilt them or something to indicate what you've moved, probably in this. There's a little track to keep track of how many points a guy's moved. This is important because people move because a lot happens during the movement. One of the big things is you can spend movement points to just move spaces, but you can also spend movement points to do something called harassment. Harassment is generally an attempt, well, I'm not sure what it is, to tell you the truth. It's somehow making someone's life more difficult. It can result in a number of different things. It can result in retreats by either side, which work kind of like normal retreats. You just have to back away. If you can't retreat for whatever reason, you end up in general retirement. Basically, you're no longer doing a function which puts you in the scope of the game anymore, although you can return from general retirement. There are ways you can die, too. And that'll be off coup harassment. Wow, this is going to take forever to explain, isn't it? Okay, so other aspects are masking and neutralizing, which basically make a counter less useful to whichever side controls it. The worst level of that, it strips them of their zone of control and even strips them of the ability to stand in their own hex. You can't walk through enemy units normally. Well, if they're neutralized, you can. It also prevents them from moving or harassing anyone. Okay, so that's how the movement works, and this is done on a differential table. A number of the tables in this game are differential, a few are ratios. Then you're allowed to recruit, and that's done doing the recruiting table. Each unit you have that has an adjacent unit in its zone of control, basically, is allowed to attempt to recruit a unrecruited unit that's viable to be recruited. You can't go around recruiting Nazis in general as the Abwehr, although if you have their loyalty chit, you can. I know that you cannot recruit SS as the Abwehr, and likewise you can't recruit Abwehr as the SS. They're inimically opposed to one another. So the goal here is to get somebody as one of your pieces, and that'll flip them over and make them useful to you as a regular unit. The disadvantage, and there's little control markers to indicate if you've got pieces that wouldn't normally be aligned to you. You're allowed to recruit once with each of your pieces and to attempt to recruit each piece once. But if you recruit a piece, it can try to recruit another piece that's in its zone of control. So you can get this chain reaction of recruitment going. Okay? And that'll give you more pieces for later in the game. And then we go to a status adjustment phase where your pieces that have been masked or neutralized come back to you, and there's a chance that you'll get units back from general retirement by rolling the dice. I think in order for that to happen, no, it happens no matter what. I thought you might have to have a headquarters space open for that to happen. Now, headquarters are kind of cool because they give the people who are aligned with that headquarters, and that's not a trivial thing. So SS are clearly aligned with the black ones. So are Nazis. Nazis and civilians are aligned with the red, and OKW and Abwehr are aligned with the blue ones. That gives you a +4 to your defensive value on the harassment table, which is kind of cool, but it doesn't help you for recruitment, and as far as I can tell. It may help with investigation, I don't remember. Okay. So then we go to the SS player turn, which is essentially the same, except for one thing. There's this little investigation and interrogation phase. And if you're next to units after you've done your recruitment, you can declare an investigation. And that's an odds chart. Again, you can use more than one unit against a single enemy unit. The unit that you're attacking has to have been put under suspicion. Now, Abwehr-aligned units become under suspicion as soon as they successfully recruit anyone. There may be other ways to make them under suspicion. I believe loyalty chits can be used for that. And SS loyalty chits can be used to prevent an investigation from happening. Well, to prevent someone from being involved in an investigation. Okay, so you roll on this table when you investigate, and different things happen here. The lowest value, and you have to meet at least 2 to 1 to even get on this, to get a chance to roll. The lowest value says the SS gets a chit from the Abwehr holding box. Okay? The higher values, recruitment can also cause, if you make a bad roll, can cause you, can cause the defending player, as it were, or the person who is not making the recruitment, a chance to draw a chit, or what? Can give them a chit out of the enemy's space, whichever that is. These chits are all face down in a real game, but I'm going to play with them face up because it's easier for me. Okay, so now let's look. Recruitment, yeah, investigation. So other options that can happen, you can neutralize the enemy. No biggie there. That can happen from harassment. Or you can put someone in an interrogation cell over here. Now what happens is everybody who's in an interrogation cell gets checked. This is only the SS can do this. Gets checked against this table. Their strength is compared to the investigation value. Now I'm trying to remember. There's some chit that allows you to get a bonus on this table. I don't remember what it is. There's some effect that allows you. Let's see. Alibi arrest. Yeah. An alibi arrest chit can be used by the Abwehr to reduce an interrogation's effectiveness. So if you get an SS, the SS has tortured you and gotten information that's useful. Not only is whoever is being tortured dead now, and dead, not in retirement, but they're also, the Abwehr player loses that many chits to the SS player from his holding box. And those are at random. General retirement, well, it's the same as how it happens otherwise. You get placed out of play for a while. When you come back, if you're not an Abwehr unit, you come back as a neutral unit again. You have to be re-recruited. And then finally, HQ, you're returned to a friendly headquarters for free. That may require that there be a space for you. I'm not positive. It may be like general retirement, it may not. If there's no space, you go into general retirement. But I may be wrong about that, right? I'm just trying to remember the rules as I go, as usual. Okay. And that's the basic flow of the game until the Abwehr player decides to go for a coup. When he goes for a coup, I've left something out, which is if the SS goes into a headquarters, and he can't just walk in these, he has to actually harass the headquarters itself or harass a unit in the headquarters to get in there. If he does that, though, the OKW may panic, and you lose that many OKW units that were aligned with the Abwehr and the plot, and they just become neutral again. They can be picked from anywhere, I believe. Maybe anywhere in Berlin, I'm not sure. Again, I have to look these things up as I'm playing. But hopefully I'm giving you some idea in all my confusion. So, once there's a coup success, yes, the Valkyrie table. The Abwehr player is allowed to play this, is allowed to call a coup and play Führer access chits. The number of those he has are added to a die roll, and that is how well the coup works. He has to get at least a 6 for there to even be a coup. And that's divided into 3 numbers. The first number is how much it costs to harass someone during the coup. Instead of 1 movement point, it costs more. Of course, harassment is more effective during the coup. It can cause eliminations, for example. The second number is the harassment differential bonus. This is added to your attack value when you harass. It's easier to harass people during the coup. You can just go shoot them, right? And then the third number is a special movement bonus. I believe it's how many units the Abwehr get. Let me make sure. Yeah. He can move that many Abwehr units and take a preemptive strike on the coup phase. Now, one of his goals during a coup is to kill Hitler. If he doesn't succeed in doing this, he starts taking a penalty to, I believe it's a harassment differential bonus. His ability to stage the coup becomes weaker and weaker as time goes on until he kills Hitler. Now, if once he kills Hitler, that bonus goes fully back up. For the SS, it's always there. Here's another thing. One of the results that's possible from the recruitment table is something called semi-recruited. Semi-recruited units have to be left alone for the rest of the normal period of the game, but as soon as Hitler dies in a coup, they'll all join the plot. And so if you have a bunch of those laying around, they can be a big bonus if you can get Hitler dead. And then finally there's the victory conditions, which quite simply are... Oh, loyalty chits during coup take a different effect too. You're allowed to do what? You're allowed to freeze a unit for a coup turn by playing a loyalty chit on it. So some of the things have, you know, the way of the game shifts. There's no investigation. There's no more assignments. There's no more conquests by the Allies. Once the coup starts, things are moving very quickly. It's just a few days at that point. So again, the victory in the game, well, it's to clear Berlin of either Abwehr or SS outside of headquarters. If you manage that, you win the game. But there's a limit to how many coup turns there are. There's only 6 in the game. So and there's only 9 turns in the game. So if the Abwehr doesn't win at the end of 9 turns, I believe the game is over at that point, right? No. I'm not sure. Yes. If the Abwehr never successfully declares a coup, the SS wins. So the Abwehr has 9 turns to create a coup. Once they create one, they or the SS have 6 turns to defeat the other side completely inside Berlin, outside of headquarters. If that's not managed, if both sides are still around in Berlin, if nobody goes on the attack, basically, well, the Allies win. Both players lose the game. So there is some requirement to do something, or else you can't win. Okay, and there's an actual time limit on it. And to send this up, I hope it has an idea here. This was a game that was... has always intrigued me a bit. So I'm hoping to have some fun with this. I do not imagine, because of its 2-player nature, that it's going to be anywhere near as exciting or interesting as the Russian Civil War is. However, I don't think it'll be as tedious as Canadian Civil War turns out to be. That's a kind of a painful game to play, even though it's got this multiplayer aspect. I've always found it kind of hard to do. All right, up this goes.